What accident happened in a sleepover that ruined the sleepover? Story 1. I had a sleepover for my birthday. Several girlfriends were sleeping over. We woke up and one of my friends, the shy quiet one, bless her heart, was gone. Vanished from her sleeping bag. There was also a mysterious dried substance on my best friend's sleeping bag. She said, "What's this?" and scrapes and picks it off. Turns out it was vomit. There was vomit everywhere. My mom had to take her home in the middle of the night because she woke up and threw up all over herself. She tried to cover her mouth so she had it all over her hands. She went up the stairs to get to the bathroom and touched the walls the whole way up. When she got to the bathroom, she wiped her face on the hand towel, and I'll never forget the perfect face print that was left in vomit. A real work of art. The real tragedy is my mom had to clean it all up in the middle of the night after driving her home. If you're out there, Madeline, I hope it doesn't haunt you. Story 2. My wife's older sister and that sister's friend were chasing each other around the house when they were around 10 years old. They were running in a circle set up where you go from a door off the kitchen into the yard and back through a sliding glass door to the living room. Friend was chasing sister and sister slammed the sliding glass doors shut. This was the 80s and the house was old by then, so this was not safety glass. Friend ran full speed into the glass door, going straight through the glass. Story goes, it was as bad as you would expect without any fatalities, with massive bleeding and hospital dash. I can't imagine being either parent at the end of that phone call. Story 3. This wasn't an accident, but my friend and I built a blanket fort under her desk and fell asleep in it. Around 2 Amber's stepdad came into the room, opened the fort and threw a glass of ice water all over us yelling, "You're supposed to be in bed. Stop trying to hide from me." Then he saw me, took a few steps back and apologized and told us to go to bed. I was only 9 or 10 and didn't understand what that was all about. My friend was scared and made me promise not to tell anyone. And since I didn't understand what was really happening, I kept my promise. I'm 32 now and I regret not telling my parents about it at the time. Story 4. We were having a classic sleepover, face masks, movies, and a ton of snacks. Everything was going smoothly until my friend's little brother decided to let his hamster out of its cage for fun. At first, it was cute watching it waddle around, but then it vanished. We turned the entire house upside down looking for it, crawling on the floor and pulling furniture away from the walls. Hours passed, and we couldn't find it anywhere. Finally, at around 3 a.m., we heard a faint squeak and realized the hamster had crawled into a small hole in the wall. We panicked, thinking it was stuck forever. Her parents had to cut a small hole in the drywall to get it out, and we spent the rest of the night in pure chaos. Needless to say, no one got any sleep, and her mom wasn't happy about the surprise home renovation. Story 5. We were all into scary stories, so naturally we decided to tell ghost tales before going to bed. My friend had this big creepy old closet in her room that just looked like the perfect setting for a horror movie. After one particularly spooky story, one of the girls dared another to hide in the closet for a minute alone. She did, but after 30 seconds, she came running out screaming that she saw something move inside. We all freaked out, convinced her house was haunted, and no one dared to go near the closet for the rest of the night. The problem was we couldn't sleep either because we were all too scared. Every little noise had us jumping. It was a night of total paranoia. Story 6. My friend and I went for a walk in the woods with his Jack Russell Terrier. Every time I was around his dog, my eyes would itch, so I figured I must have been mildly allergic to his dog. After about an hour in the woods, we made our way back to his house. We got inside, did the usual upstate New York, check yourself for ticks, and sat down to play video games. Within about 5 minutes of me being in the house, my friend looks at me and says something along the lines of, "Dude, what is good with your eyes?" So I go into the bathroom and look, my eyes are almost swollen shut. It turns out that on our excursion I had touched poison ivy, and when we got to the house my eyes started itching from the dog, and I rubbed my eyes. It was horrible. My dad picked me up immediately. Sleepover was ruined. Story 7. In 4th grade, my friend was supposed to sleep over. I lived in an apartment building and my apartment was on the 2nd floor, and my grandparents lived on the 1st floor. My grandma often picked me up from school at around 3 and my parents would come home at around 5, so I'd chill for a few hours until my parents got home. Well, school day ends. Me and my best friend are super excited to have this sleepover. We get to my grandma's apartment and I tell her we're going to have to wait a bit for my parents. This is when things start to go down. We were talking for a while in the living room, doing 4th grade things, and then out of nowhere, she drops to the ground and starts shaking. I'm like, oh no, she's having a seizure or something wrong. She then sits up very straight and pretends to not know who I am, and then pretends to be possessed. She starts trying to hit me, and is talking in this voice that's super cringy thinking back on it, but I was absolutely terrified. She ended up hitting me and scratching me a few times, and I was just worriedly saying, haha, name, please stop, it's not funny anymore. My grandma heard the weird ass noises she was making and my dad pleased for her to stop, and called me to the kitchen. I told her everything that happened, and my grandma called my friend's grandma, and told her she needed to pick her up right now. I didn't go back into the living room where this all happened. Then this girl had the nerve to walk into the kitchen and ask what was wrong and why was I upset. Hated her. She turned out to be very manipulative and terrible as a human in general. Cut her off in 5th grade or so. Story 8. We were pulling classic pranks on each other, like shaving cream on the face and freezing someone's hand in water. But it got out of hand when one of the guys decided it would be hilarious to steal someone's boxers while they were in the bathroom. He snatched them and hung them up on the ceiling fan in the living room for everyone to see. At first, it was all laughs. But when the dude came out and saw his undies flapping around in front of everyone, he got seriously pissed. He started yelling and tackled the guy who took them. The next thing we knew, they were both wrestling, and someone ended up knocking over a lamp. Parents got involved, and it was just a mess. No one expected things to go from harmless fun to an all-out brawl over a pair of boxers. Story 9. We were messing around, taking goofy videos for fun, when one of the guys dared another to make a little exciting video as a joke. Everyone thought it would be hilarious. He started doing this ridiculous dance in his boxers, mimicking those over-the-top music video moves. He was going all out, gyrating, winking at the camera, the whole deal. But things took a dark turn when, somehow the video got accidentally uploaded to one of our group chats with everyone from school. Within minutes, people were commenting, laughing, and sharing it, and he had no idea until the messages started flooding in. He freaked out, tried deleting it, but it was too late. The damage was done, and we all knew he was never going to live that down. Story 10. We played video games too late and were starving, so we decided to make a pizza. None of us really knew how to cook, but we figured it was easy. Just pop it in the oven, right? Well, we didn't realize that you're supposed to take the pizza out of the cardboard box first. We shoved the whole thing into the oven and started playing video games while it cooked. About 10 minutes later, we smelled something weird and saw smoke pouring out of the kitchen. The box had caught fire, and the whole oven was a smoky mess. We freaked out, threw water on it, and set off the fire alarm. Parents came rushing down, and that was the end of our pizza and our sleepover. The whole house reeked of smoke, and we spent the night cleaning up instead of having fun. Story 11. It was just supposed to be a chill night. Video games, food, and staying up way too late. Everything was going fine until my little sister barged into the room and started messing with us. We tried to ignore her, but she wouldn't stop, so one of my friends dared me to lock her in the bathroom for a few minutes as payback. I did, and at first, it was all laughs, until we realized the door was stuck. No matter how hard we pulled, we couldn't get it open, and my sisters started freaking out. We had to call my parents to come home from their night out early to help, and let's just say, they weren't happy about the emergency. The sleepover mood was ruined after that, and no one wanted to hang out anymore. Story 12. In elementary school, I got invited to my crush's house, and while it wasn't a sleepover, we were hanging out all day. She gave me a lifesaver, hard round candy, but I thought the gummy ones, the brand had different kinds. Didn't like the flavor, so I tried to swallow it whole. Started choking on it, and her older sister had to do the Heimlich maneuver on me, to which I spewed the candy and a gloop of esophageal mucus the size of a slice of bread all over her kitchen floor. I think I was mortified and never spoke to her again. I literally don't know what happened after that, 'cause I was so flustered. Story 13. My friends went out to Denmark to drink when they were 16 to 17. They invited some girls over and things were getting steamy between two couples. My closest friend, the only one without a girl to kiss, was way too drunk and falls down from one of the bunk beds, pukes all over the first couple, and then walks over to the other couple and pukes over them too. Don't know if he did it on purpose or if it was an accident. He has zero memories from that night, except that he was drinking 2 bottles of wine and that everyone was trying to give him water, which he didn't understand 'cause he thought he was drinking Kool-Aid. He has done a similar thing when I was making out with a friend during a sleepover, except that he didn't puke all over us, but got really drunk in another room and came back upset. Didn't understand his behavior until years later when he told me that he had a huge crush on me and was sad that he didn't have the courage to flirt with me. Story 14. When I was 18, I was woken up at night by a prank call. I lied and said I knew someone who worked at the phone company who will give me their address and phone number, and I will make them regret messing with me. I was in a bad mood as I was working Saturday morning. Turns out the call was made by a girl I had a few one-nights stands with and didn't treat so well. She was having a sleepover with lots of her friends and made the call on speakerphone. I basically did such a fearsome angry fire and brimstone rant over speakerphone that it ruined the feel-good atmosphere of the sleepover. She called not long after and apologized. I was a moron the way I treated women when I was 18. Story 15. Around age 10, I had a friend on the block who had every Nerf gun you could imagine. He even had the purple Nerf crossbow that fired these huge yellow darts. All the kids on the street are sleeping over at his place, and naturally we plan a house-wide Nerf war. My friend is running down the stairs and I raise up the crossbow to mow him. As soon as I fire, he slips backwards, sliding down the last few steps, putting his eye level with this massive yellow dart I fired at him. His screams of pain ended the Nerf war pretty quickly. Everyone got sent home, and I was never allowed over to their house again. I'm not sure how badly I injured him. I just know he had to wear an eye patch for a few months, and started wearing glasses all the time after. Story 16. Friend and I were hanging out in the train yard near his house, and we started throwing rocks at trains. This was way before It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia did it. I bent over to pick up a rock, and when I stood up I was right in the path of an oncoming rock my friend threw, and it smashed me in the back of the head. So my head was split open, and I'm bleeding all over the place, and we ran back to his house and showed his mom, and I head to the hospital to get stitches. Side note, I was super scared of needles, so I convinced the doctor to not give me freezing, and let me tell you, do not do that. Stitches without freezing hurts more than the injury did. Story 17. Me, 10, and two of my cousins, 11 and 13, had a sleepover. We were playing hide-and-seek tag in the house. My older cousin was chasing my younger cousin, when my younger cousin stepped on a toothpick while running. It went through the bottom of his foot. It pushed the top of his foot skin up like a tent. It was buried so deep you could no longer see the toothpick. That immediately stopped that, and both my cousins had to go to the emergency room. I'll never forget that. Story 18. Slept over at a friend's house around 10 years old, and we shared a queen bed. Woke up in the middle of the night, and the friend had pissed. Found out after this was common for him. The bed, and moved to the floor, but failed to wake and tell me. I rolled to the spot and woke up because of the cold wetness on my side. I went to the washroom to wash up, and the floor was soaking wet when I walked in the dark. I turned on the light to discover his drunk dad had pissed all over the floor. I couldn't get out of there fast enough in the morning. Story 19. I was in middle school sleeping over at a friend's house when the worst pain of my life started in my abdomen. I thought my appendix burst or I don't know what. I woke their mom up, and she drove me home instead of to the hospital. To make a long story short, it turns out that I was just constipated. I'm still friends with the family over a decade later, and trust me, they still remember that night very clearly. Pretty embarrassing. Story 20. I had a friend that had been acting up the entire time she was over, so everyone was already annoyed. Later in the night, she was jumping off the coffee table and broke it, spilling melted ice cream all over a laptop and important papers that were on it. So basically, she was never allowed back. That's a wrap for this video. Make sure to leave your relatable story down in the comments. I would love to make a video on them. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you next time.